On defense, 6 players signed national letters of intent today, Coach. You spread it around. 2 defensive backs, 2 linebackers, 2 defensive linemen. Let's start up front with the big guys. Mike Johns, 6'4", 245-pounder out of Oak Forest, Illinois. And Evan Klepek, a 6'3", 245-pound defensive lineman from Canfield, Ohio.
Yes, Mike and Evan both are 2 guys that we're really excited about. I don't think you can ever have enough defensive linemen. We targeted those guys early when we started this recruiting process. Again, with only 12 or 14 scholarships, what we thought to begin with, these were 2 guys we were after from the get-go. Mike Johns, I think when you see him come in here, he's a young man from Chicago that got overlooked this year. He's already up to, I think, close to 265 pounds, will be a defensive tackle for us. I told him I was in his home 3 weeks ago. He was a young man that when he made his camp tour this summer, told us he was sick and had lost a bunch of weight down to 225, 230 pounds, which was perfect for us because a lot of people, I think, at that time overlooked him because he wasn't as big as we knew he would get. He's put on about 15 pounds already since the season ended and is going to be a great defensive tackle for us. Evan Klepek is a young man that played defensive end, but at 245 pounds right now, he's another young man that could grow into a tackle. He's played all the positions up front, but I think with the young defensive line that we have, that these 2 are going to have a chance to fit in and play really early.
Linebackers have seemingly always been at the heart of the Miami defense, and you signed 2 athletes there. J.T. Swanson from Buford, Georgia, and another product of Turpin High School in Cincinnati, Luke Kelly.
Yeah, we're very excited about Luke and J.T. J.T. Swanson from Buford High School down suburb of Atlanta, won the state championship this year. Had a tremendous high school career. I think in his 4-year career they were 53-5, and he's a young man that's been used to playing 15 games for the last 3 years. So he's almost packed 3 games of playing seasons into the last 2 years. He's a young man that's going to remind a lot of people of John Beesing that played for us a couple years ago from the same area, same type build, same type of athletic ability, and he'll be a great person to bring into our program. Luke Kelly's a young man from Turpin High School, a teammate of Andy Cruz, who we talked about earlier, receiver. Both had a lot of success, really turned the program at Turpin around, had 2 great years, and he's a young man that's going to be probably either a middle linebacker or a Sam linebacker for us. It's very physical. He's a young man. It's hard to tell how big he's going to get, but those 2 are very active linebackers.
In the defensive secondary, another Georgia product from Smyrna, Georgia. You have Brian Sutherland and another local product, Lakota West, Westchester, Ohio, DJ Brown in the secondary.
Yeah, DJ and Brian will both be great additions, both very good athletes. DJ is a taller corner. It's got an athletic family. His father played at Ohio State and in the NFL and comes from a great program. That's our 3rd player from Lakota West in the last 2 years. Brian Sutherland, a young man from Smyrna, Georgia, Campbell High School. Actually, we were able to get on him. His high school coach was actually my first roommate at NC State, so we had a good in there, and he's an exceptional player that's a great kick returner, and so he'll be able to add that dimension to us. So we're really excited about those 6 defensive players. We didn't take as many as we did last year. We felt like we needed more on offense, and that's the way we went this year.
Well, I'll ask you the same question about these guys I asked you on offense. You're talking about building depth on defense, and you already have some quality depth there. How do you see these 6 impacting the defensive side of the ball?
Well, I think it's going to be hard to tell until they come in. Defensively, we've got really 9/10 starters back from last year's team. We're going to have as much depth as we've had in a long time. We want to make sure, as you bring these kids in, we want to make sure if they're going to have a chance to play as a freshman that we play them a lot. We don't want to waste a year, and because we want to maximize their 4 years. So I think by bringing 2 in at each position, it shows you that we didn't feel like there was a position where we had a ton of need. We feel good with all the 3 positions. As I said this earlier, this spring we're going to be 3 deep at most positions. These guys will come in and challenge. With this group, especially with the DBs and the linebackers, you never know if they can help you on special teams also. So we'll just have to wait and see as to how they fit in.
One guy that can probably impact right away is our 18th signee, a special teams signee, Jim Broadway, 6 foot, 175-pound kicker and punter from Roswell, Georgia. I'd imagine that he'd step in and compete right away.
Well, Jim's very talented young man. He was a kicker. He kicked off for him. He was a punter. He's got it in his background. His father was a punter at the University of Georgia back in the early 80s when they won the national championship and was part of 3 SEC championship teams. We felt like that was an area of need as we went into recruiting. We're going to have Jake Richardson, who will be a 4-year starter at punter. We felt like we needed somebody to come in and challenge him. On the kicking side, with Nate Parsegan being a senior and Trevor Cook being a junior, we felt like we couldn't wait. One thing we like to do in recruiting is we like to look 2 years ahead. I think it's hard to replace seniors with incoming freshmen. It's a lot easier when they've been here for a year, whether it's a true sophomore or redshirt freshman. So this was another area that we felt like we needed somebody to come in and be ready for in the future, and Jim's going to fit that mold for us.
Let's look ahead the next couple of months. We're just weeks away from spring football, and I know you're looking forward to that. What will be the goals for you as you enter spring football this year, Coach?
Well, we've got to continue to develop depth. I think, like I said, defensively, we're going to be in a pretty good situation with only losing 2 kids that played much for us, and I think the year before we only lost 3. So we've got a very veteran defensive group. Offensively, we've got to find some depth. We do have, I believe, 8 starters coming back on paper. But there are certain areas such as running back and especially at offensive line where we're going to have to get some young guys ready to provide some depth. So there's going to be some great competition there. I think the biggest thing for us, we just got to be able to take the next step. Coming off the 2-10 season in 2006, one of the things I thought was maybe to be able to take a step forward, you got to take a step back first. And we did that in 2006, and we went through that, and that was tough. But I think we showed a lot of resiliency this year, coming back, especially after a 1-3 start, having a chance to get to the MAC championship game. I think we've got a taste of that right now. We're not going to be satisfied with that. We want to win the MAC championship. We want to get to a bowl game. We want to make a splash on the national level. I told our guys, and I've had many conversations with Brad Bates and some of our administration about what our goals are. We want to. I told the guys the other day, nobody was around. Nobody that's left on the team was part of the 2003 championship team that ended up 13-1 and 10 and ranked 10th in the country. That's something we aspire for. We're going to have a very challenging schedule like we do, but I think as and Brad will be the first one to tell you, it's been very challenging trying to figure out what our schedule is going to be next year. We do not know what that is, so if you want to ask it, and we don't know. So I would just save a question there, but. We're gonna be playing 12 teams next year that I know we can line up and win all 12 games. Yeah. I tell our guys that all the time. Now I tell them that we could lose all 12, but I know that when we line up next year that we can win all 12 games. We're going to have that type of team. Now there's going to be a lot that goes into that, but we need to get back to where we're regularly being in that championship game. We are regularly in a bowl game. And we need to make a national splash, and I think we've got some players that can help us do that.
Very good. You just erased my last question there, by the way, Coach. Any questions for the coach from the audience? Anybody?
Make sure everybody knows we're going to start spring practice on the weekend of March 29th. We're going to conclude right now. The spring game is scheduled for Friday night, April 25th. We've had the spring game on Friday night the last couple of years. I believe it's been very good for us. I know we'll have a lot of different functions that day. I think with softball and baseball, and we'll end up with the spring game that night. So we're looking forward to it. But those will be our spring practice dates.